Hello again and welcome to this week's presentation. This time we're talking about literary terms. Let's talk about fiction. Fiction is imagined stories. It's stories that didn't happen. It's not a biography. It's not a history. It's an imagined story out of somebody's head that they put on paper. It's the most popular type of writing, and it has many genres and subgenres. Some of those listed below on the screen: historical, contemporary realistic, dystopian, science fiction, fantasy. And there's other types also, but those are some of the genres, some of the subgenres. So the different types. One type is the fable, which is a tall tale. Think Aesop's fables. Another one is a parable, which tells a moral tale with real characters and possible plots. Typo on there is stale, but it should be tale. A moral tale with real characters and possible plots. One of the most famous parables is found in the Bible, which is the parable of the prodigal son. Son goes out, lives his life, comes back, and it basically tells a tale how Hello and welcome again to English 109. This week we're talking about literary terms. Talk about fiction. We are speaking about imagined stories, stories that didn't actually happen. They're not histories, they're not biographies, they're not self-help. They are imagined stories, fake stories, if you will. Most popular type of writing, and it has many genres and subgenres. You could have historical, which is perhaps a pirate tale from back in the 1800s. Contemporary realistic, have a story about young people in Seattle. You have dystopian, which is like 1984, Hunger Games, science fiction. Ray Bradbury is a famous science fiction author. And fantasy, Lord of the Rings, Game of Thrones. That's the name of it on HBO. Fantasy is another type of fiction work. There's a lot of other types out there as well. So the types that we have are fables, which are tell tales. It could be like Aesop's fables. Parable tells a moral tale with a real character and possible plots. One of the famous ones is the prodigal son from the Bible. We have national or folk hero. Think Paul Bunyan. We also have tall tales, which deeds of a superhero or a storyteller. Mythology, legends of historical events often pertaining to the gods. Now, we have changed some of our people in the past to mythological status, such as George Washington or Abraham Lincoln. And those, in that instance, they are legends of historical folks. But classic mythology is like the Greek and Roman gods. Think of nowadays Odysseus, the Christopher Nolan film, The Odyssey, follows him. That is mythology. It actually didn't happen, but it's used to tell a story from ancient times. Satire uses humor to ridicule human weakness or political injustice. One of famous satire stories from the past is Gulliver's Travels. Today in TV, satire is best known as from Saturday Night Live or from South Park. Initiation story, main character goes a rite of passage. Think of the Chocolate Wars if you read that in high school. Also, another one is To Kill a Mockingbird, where the initiation story, the main character grows up. A fairy tale is a story with magic and enchantment. Think Cinderella, Grimm's fairy tales, Snow White. The novel is a longer piece of writing with developed characters and settings and plots. That's what a novel is, and you'll have to do a novel analysis later on, but we'll get to that in a couple of weeks. The short story. Let's talk about short stories since that is what we're going to focus on for the next couple of weeks. It's a 16-week class, so divide that up into 3. So the next 5 or so weeks, we're going to be talking about short stories. It has fewer characters. It has a simple setting. Normally, where a novel would have a wide variety of settings, the short story is going to have just one basic setting. It's a unified idea and effect, and it has vivid, dramatic moment. When you read these short stories, they all come down to like the slide says, a vivid, dramatic moment. There's a history behind short stories that we need to talk about. It's predominantly found in magazines, and that's where they became popular. Popular reading material. 1837, Nathaniel Hawthorne's Twice Told Tales is the first instance of a well-known short story. And others predate this story, but they are part of something larger. This one, Hawthorne divided the stories up into smaller chunks, put them in the magazine, and that was the first short story. The Poe later identified it as a narrative that can be read in one setting. And everything that we are going to talk about in this class can be read in one setting. Plot structure in a short story follows Freytag's pyramid. It has exposition, which is the introduction of the main characters, establishes setting and foreshadowing of the central conflict. There's an inciting incident that creates conflict that puts the plot into motion. Rising action. Short story may only have one rising action. A novel may have several different items. And then the conflict is the climax is your conflict or crisis that comes to the peak, the highest point of tension. Everything after that is falling action and it's just tying up loose ends. It's a lot shorter than the rising action. And resolution resolves the main conflict and gives closure to your characters and readers. This somewhat follows the hero's journey that we'll talk about later on in the semester. But Freytag's pyramid is a good way to represent the plot structure of a short story. Other plot terms that we need to think about is foreshadowing, hints of upcoming events. You may not understand what the foreshadowing is when you're reading it, but once you've completed reading the short story, you should be able to go back and go, oh, this was the area of foreshadowing, and then that came to pass. I can see it now. A flashback, a character remembers previous events to provide more detail. In media res is in the middle. Greek mythology likes to do that a lot. And perpetua is a sudden change or fortune or circumstance. Point of view is something that all short stories have. It could be first-person point of view, which is the person participates in the story, has limited knowledge. I went to the story. While I was in here, I saw this. Third-person dramatic reports dialogue and action with no interpretation. It's like a play. It's just basically high-level, looking down on the characters, and it reports what's going on and has dialogue. Third-person, limited omniscient, sees into one character. More than likely the main character. And an omniscient sees into all characters. I touched upon this in a previous video, but there are certain characters that we have in stories. Short stories have them as well as novels. The protagonist, the main person in the book. If we're talking Harry Potter, it's Harry Potter. The Harry Potter books, the antagonist in Harry Potter would be Lord Voldemort. The narrator, you can be innocent, naive, and creates a gap between what the reader knows and what we know. And then unreliable. Can we trust the facts of what the narrator is saying? When you are talking about characters, you also have to think about static and dynamic, which is fixed and changing. A static character stays the same throughout the story. They don't grow. A dynamic character changes through the story. They grow. They become a better person. They go further into madness, whatever the case is. A dynamic character is a more interesting character than a fixed character. The anti-hero is a disappointing hero, lacks the luster of a great hero. You may have Spider-Man, you may have Batman, you may have Superman as a regular hero, but your anti-heroes are disappointing in their behavior. They lack the luster, like I said, of a great hero. Think The Punisher is an anti-hero. Think John Wick is an anti-hero. Think Deadpool is another example of the anti-hero. Stock, stereotypical character. Think of the mean and obnoxious teacher. Think of the brat that lives next door. Think of the person that doesn't grow. They just have the stock character. They're just boring, whatever the case is. And the foil is a character that creates contrast or highlights another character. And what is their motivation in the story? Setting is important in short stories and novels, but since we're focusing on short stories, let's talk about this. The place and time is where and when the activity happened. It could be in a small town. It could be in a distant place. It could be on a ship, whatever, the time and place. The weather plays an important part of it. Heat, drought, monsoon rains, the atmosphere. The mood is influenced by the setting. If you have an old haunted house, the mood is not going to be happy. It's going to be apprehensive. It's going to be on edge. If you have an amusement park, that could be a happy place. Or if it's a haunted amusement park, it could be like the haunted house, full of anticipation and dread. Regionalism, set in a particular region that influences the story. If it's a story set in Italy, that's going to influence the story in a different way than a story set in California. And naturalism is realistic writing in which people are victims of society. So when you are talking about these items, think about setting, think about place, think about the folks that are in the story that make this story interesting, that move the story forward.